That's something interesting. I'm interested to hear from you as well as about your students. At what age? Because didn't you say you were 42?
I was 43 at the
43?
Yeah.
So 43 this happened for you. How about you, Barbara?
44.
44. And what age are most of your students?
Well, I would say in our weekend program, which is a program designed for non-traditional students, they average probably in their 30s right now, but I have had a student in my class last semester who was in her 60s, a woman who retired from the Milwaukee Police Department and was reinventing her life, taking all her humanities courses because she'd never read very much. She didn't know where she was going on this journey, but she wanted to be, I mean, I'm all about surround yourself with people who inspire you. I'm inspired just listening to you two, you know, and I think...
Oh, me and Tiffany?
You notice I pointed? I pointed?
Host is the next.
But I think change can come by force, or it can come by choice, and many times it comes by force.
Absolutely.
So things happen out of your control, but then where do you go from here?
Why was it important for you to reinvent, too? Was it because you were forced to? Was that why it was important to change the way you were living?
Well, I needed to get out of town and take a break, because everyone is trying to be helpful when someone dies and when all these changes are happening. So I went on this RV trip with my dad, but after 4 weeks or 6 weeks of being out of your environment, change happens, and you are so acutely aware now of things that you didn't even know. When I went back to Italy or to Orlando, I was so overwhelmed by how horrible my lifestyle was, and it felt really awkward and harsh. And so this 4 weeks being away and then coming back and re-entry, it was so ugly that I knew I was done. And
that re-immersion just didn't work for you. You knew that you had changed so much as a person and you'd opened yourself to it that then you needed to follow through with some action.
I could not go back to my old lifestyle.
But didn't you feel that you had suddenly created enough stability now with this new person that you were, that it didn't freak you out too much when you went back? Were you able to sort of readjust and well, you moved on, is what you did.
Going forward was the easiest thing I ever did.
That's right.
Liquidating my home, and literally the day I rolled down the garage door to the storage unit and drove away with 2 suitcases was one of the happiest days of my life.
Yeah. Good for you. Because I see that a lot in my students. So and without getting too intellectual about it, part of what we call that is sort of a paradigm change. That your world has shifted now, and so you need to rebuild sort of a new foundation. And I think that it sounds like what you did is that time away, and you probably did that too, was allowed you to rebuild a new foundation for yourself. That the next steps were easier.
It almost seems like a key to that was like the time, the month, spending a significant part of time away, which you did in the ashram, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think you have to back away because you get in rhythms and patterns in your life. Habits, exactly. And they really become ruts in a way. They say the difference between a rut and the grave is how much time you're spending in it, right? And so you get in these ruts and you just get in these habits, and your life becomes automatic. And stepping away like that makes you think about everything you're going to do. So completely getting away from it makes you say, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then when you come back, you have that ability to say, okay, I'm not going to keep doing this. I'm going to do these new patterns that I've created for myself.
And do you like yourself better now? And do you love your life more now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The freedom and the adventure and the joy, it's undescribable compared to shoulds, must, have to do this, just churning, running the treadmill, the hamster wheel.
But I don't think I could have, but I agree with you, but it's not like I say the past was irrelevant and I hated that past. I don't think I could have the current now that I have without that past. Because I learned a lot about myself, I went through a lot of experiences, I knew what was out there, and then when I said, what do I want to do, it was based on real experience and internal knowledge.
Yeah, because your re-immersion was back into your family. You have 3 sons, your wife. You didn't make as many changes, but still reinvented yourself, but re-immersed yourself into your life in a new way. I want to talk about how you do it, because there are going to be a lot of people, especially moms, watching, and they're like, I can't reinvent myself. And I think that's a really legitimate, like, how do I do that? So, Barbara, you talk about asking yourself some questions like, what do I love? What are my dreams? If I could do anything, what would it be? What brings me joy? Who am I? What do I find beautiful? What do I describe as the best day ever? And then what? And then do something about it?
Well, if you take each one of those questions and maybe write 10 items for each one, and then you really kind of dwell on them, and it gives you a time to think about, if I could choose anything, what would I choose? So you kind of go back to dreams that you had maybe when you were younger, or are you artistic? Are you a painter, a writer? Do you want to live in the countryside? You get to really just kind of rethink, who am I and who do I want to become? But something formulates when you look at these answers to these questions, and suddenly a new career or a new something just appears from these answers.
Like that old workbook, the What Color is Your Parachute,
Yes.
kind of directs you towards all that. We're almost out of time, so I want to get your best tips from the two of you before we have to go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I would say the goal setting, and based on, Barbara kind of points out, you have to look at your value system, and then what you have to do is really set some goals, and set goals that are positive, what they call approach goals, that you're pursuing something, and something that's intrinsic, that's going to help the internal you, not I'm going to make more money or I'm going to acquire a car or something like that. But set those goals and wipe out the past goals, or if you don't have goals, make goals. And do that, and I think once you set those goals, those things will start to drive the decisions you're making from a day-to-day basis.
We're out of time, Carol.
Oh,
I know we are, but I think
all right. I'll be back.
Yes, you will be. We'll have you back. We'll get to hear more of that, but
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
a lot of people vote to write it down too, and that really seems
And
to
as
help a lot of
authors, you
people.
probably all agree with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
so
being
much.
here.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Fantastic conversation.